Former Fox News host Tucker Carlson said that the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, wants a hot war with Russia that would destroy the United States. Now, this was during an interview on the Tucker Carlson network with Balázs Orbán, an advisor to Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. Now, according to Orban, Hungary could end up in a heated war between NATO and Russia, a prospect that no one wants to do it. But no one is strong enough to stop it. Now, as for Tucker Carlson, you may have noticed how mainstream media companies have been treating the journalist badly. And so basically the mainstream media hates Tucker Carlson because he's eating their lunch. You know what I mean? In fact, if we look at June 2021, while still at Fox News, Tucker Carlson was informed by a U.S. government whistleblower that members of Biden's National Security Agency, they were spying on Carlson, and that government agencies were attempting to leak his private communications to opposition media. As soon as Carlson announced his interview with Russian President Vladimir Putin, all of the big-time media companies couldn't hide their envy. Never Trump standard bearer Bill Kristol wrote on X at the time, saying that perhaps we need a total and complete shutdown of Tucker Carlson re-entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what's going on. But you know what? Tucker Carlson supporters see right through that facade. It's not that journalists believe that Putin should be blackballed. Rather, they want the credit and to control the message. CNN's own Christiane Amanpour even admitted it on Twitter, saying that they've been trying to interview President Putin every day since his full-scale invasion of Ukraine. So there you go. They're basically admitting that they want what Tucker Carlson has, which is an in into the Russian leader's headspace. More recently, Tucker Carlson was caught up in controversy as he published his sit-down with ultranationalist ideologue Alexander Dugin. In the interview, Dugin, long close to Russian President Vladimir Putin and considered by some his ideological brain, railed against what he called Anglo-Saxon individualism and said Western liberal values would destroy human identity. I mean, Tucker Carlson is certainly making a name for himself. I mean, just think about it. Tucker Carlson interviewed Putin in Moscow, marking the Russian leader's first sit-down with a Western journalist since Russia began its military invasion of Ukraine in 2022. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. There was even a rumor going around that the former First Lady Melania Trump was pushing for her husband to pick Tucker Carlson as his 2024 running mate. Now, according to this, Melania believes that the ex-Fox News host will be a powerful on-stage extension of her husband, former President Donald Trump. Well, you gotta admit, much like with Trump, I wouldn't bet against Tucker Carlson. You know what I mean? So today we're taking a quick look at the controversial yet very popular journalist, and we're going to see how mainstream media and maybe even the Biden administration is taking him down. So let's see how Carlson's own experience parallels that of President Donald Trump's. You guys ready for this? All right, let's go ahead and dive right in. So first, here's Tucker Carlson explaining his decision to interview Russian President Vladimir Putin. Check this out.
We're here to interview the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin. We'll be doing that soon. There are risks to conducting an interview like this, obviously, so we've thought about it carefully over many months. Here's why we're doing it. First, because it's our job. We're in journalism. Our duty is to inform people. 2 years into a war that's reshaping the entire world, most Americans are not informed. They have no real idea what's happening in this region, here in Russia or 600 miles away in Ukraine.
Now, you gotta admit, guys, he does make some sense here, right? Some even say that they love Carlson for doing this. It's like my uncle always says, there are three sides to every story. This side, and then what really happened. The fact that so many people don't even want to hear the other side is just incomprehensible. I hope that if Tucker Carlson ever goes on trial for anything, he gets to speak his perspective on this charge. And with what they're doing to Donald Trump, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they go after Carlson next. You know what I mean? Mainstream media companies may ignore Tucker Carlson, but I'm certainly paying attention, especially now that he's warning that NATO wants a hot war with Russia that would destroy the United States. He discussed this imminent NATO war with Russia during his sit-down with Balázs Orbán, an advisor to Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. Balázs Orbán said that Hungary could end up in a heated war between NATO and Russia, a prospect that he described as the worst thing possible. That's when Tucker Carlson added that everything NATO has been doing shows that they want a hot war with Russia. which will destroy the United States and possibly Hungary too. Now, for one, NATO has been a key supporter of Kiev ever since Russian President Vladimir Putin initiated the war in the Ukraine in February 2022. Jens Stoltenberg, the NATO's Secretary General, has publicly stated that the alliance stands with Kiev, with many NATO members becoming the biggest providers of aid to the Ukraine. I mean, just look at the US, right? The Biden administration just approved $60 billion in new funding for Ukraine on top of the billions of dollars that we've already sent before that. In a recent statement, NATO voiced serious concerns about harmful activities on the territory of its members, saying that NATO allies are deeply concerned about recent malign activities on allied territories, including those resulting in the investigation and charging of multiple individuals in connection with hostile state activity affecting Chechnya, Estonia, Germany, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, and the United Kingdom. The alliance highlighted that these activities are part of a broader, intensifying Russian campaign against the Euro-Atlantic area involving sabotage, violence, cyber attacks, disinformation, and other hybrid tactics. These actions, NATO asserts, they pose a significant threat to the security of its members. Last month, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban cautioned that Western nations were nearing a point where they might actually deploy troops to Ukraine, describing it as a dangerous move that could pull Europe into deeper conflict. Orban said Western leaders are one step away from sending soldiers to fight in the Ukraine. He even said that the EU's headquarters in Brussels was playing with fire. Orban is among the few NATO leaders who have been sympathetic to Putin and has consistently opposed EU aid to Ukraine and has been vocal against the Ukraine joining NATO. But despite this stance, NATO has reaffirmed its commitment, saying that the alliance will act individually, collectively to address these actions, and it will continue to coordinate closely, enhancing their tools to tackle Russian hybrid strategies and ensuring preparedness against any such attacks or threats. Concluding this statement, NATO condemned Russia's actions and called on the country to uphold its international obligations as allies do theirs. So, as you can see here, the alliance, it remains pretty resolute. I gotta say, at least in its support for the Ukraine. But what's really scary here is that this could mean America and Americans could actually end up getting pulled into yet another war. Now, as for Carlson, no matter what anybody says about his choice of interviewees, you gotta hand it to the guy. He knows how to get the perspective that mainstream media either can't get or just flat out ignores. Am I right, guys? And this is why his supporters are applauding Carlson for his courage, his strength, and genuine interest to go to Russia and meet with the president. For a lot of people, Carlson took a huge step for dialogue and understanding. And contrary to what many people believe, the interview really was not a flop. Some may even say it was heroic in their eyes and that Carlson is a person of substance. Now, as they say, every step is an accomplishment, no matter how small. Now, just a quick reminder, if you guys are finding today's discussion on Tucker Carlson intriguing and you want to stay up to date on more unfiltered, in-depth coverage like this one, don't forget to hit the like button on the video. It really helps out with the channel. And if you haven't already, please consider hitting the subscribe button and turning on all notifications so you don't miss out on future videos. All right, so let's get back to it. So Tucker Carlson's recent chat with Balazs Orban comes on the heels of some flack that he caught for the previous interview with a controversial Russian figure, ultra-nationalist thinker, Alexander Dugin. Now, this was in the last week of April. Dugin, who's a close ally of Putin and even considered his ideological guru to some, criticized what he sees as Anglo-Saxon individualism and claimed that Western liberal values would destroy human identity. Earlier this year in February, Carlson also scored a rare interview with Putin himself in Moscow, marking the first time in history that the Russian leader actually sat down with a Western journalist since the start of the Ukrainian conflict. The interview also drew quite a bit of criticism and even merited surveillance from the NSA. Now, before his Putin interview, Tucker Carlson was informed by a U.S. government whistleblower that members of Biden's National Security Agency were spying on Carlson and that government agents were attempting to leak his private communications to opposition media. Needless to say, the CIA needs to back off of Tucker, but you can definitely see the impact that this guy has. As soon as Tucker Carlson announced the interview, chaos erupted in mainstream media. Bill Kristol, he asked for a total and complete shutdown of Tucker Carlson re-entering the United States. What he didn't quite say was that when Bill Kristol was the boss over the now defunct Weekly Standard and Tucker Carlson worked there, Kristol used to really talk up Tucker. He even told Washington Post that Tucker was engaging and boyish. People take a liking to him, and that Tucker, to his credit, reports it like it is. Meanwhile, Sebastian Gorka, who used to work for Trump and once sold Let Tucker Speak t-shirts on his website, has quickly turned turned against the former Fox host. He took to Twitter to blast Tucker, saying he remembers when Americans didn't do PR for KGB colonels. Well, without being agents of the Kremlin. All sorts of names came up for Tucker Carlson when he announced his Putin interview. The mainstream media circuit called him a traitor and Putin puppet. Hillary Clinton called him a useful idiot. CNN reported that Russian state media was all excited about his visit, saying that the interview was a great opportunity for Putin to chat with a big supporter and that Tucker is pretty much a hero over here in Russia. But honestly, if you think about it, mainstream journalists, they're not really saying that Putin should be off limits. They just want in on the action and to control the narrative. Steve Rosenberg from the BBC said that they've lodged several requests with the Kremlin for a Putin interview in the 18 months since the Russian invasion of the Ukraine. The Kremlin's response? Dmitry Peskov, the spokesperson, said that they get tons of interview requests, especially from big Western media, which he claims don't even try to hide their bias. He noted that Carlson's take is different, a position that differs from the rest. It's not pro-Russian by any means, and it's not pro-Ukrainian. Rather, it's pro-American. But at least it stands in clear contrast to the position of the traditional Anglo-Saxon media. Wow. Tucker Carlson himself said in a video teasing the interview that as journalists, the job is to inform the public, and that includes talking to all sorts of leaders, even the autocratic or dangerous ones. It's not a new concept. Remember when CNN's Peter Arnett interviewed Osama bin Laden in 1997? Or when CBS sat down with Saddam Hussein in 2003? And then there was the time Sean Penn interviewed El Chapo in 2015. Putin himself isn't new to interviews. He sat down with George Stephanopoulos, Charlie Rose, Barbara Walters, Megyn Kelly, and even Oliver Stone, and he even wrote an op-ed in the New York Times in 2013. So are all of these interviewers traitors? Some might say so, but not just because they gave Putin a platform. Imagine if Tucker Carlson's interview had aired on Fox News. We probably wouldn't be seeing the same level of outrage. Despite Fox being a major voice in the Republican sphere and part of the old guard media, they're used to a certain play it safe routine. The real issue is not Putin. It's that Carlson, with his contrarian and populist approach, has broken free from traditional media and is now pulling in viewers on his own terms. And that's making the establishment nervous. As some pro-Carlson articles have mentioned, now that he's taken subscribers away and is a truly free agent, they have more reason to pounce. Now, as we wrap up our discussion on Tucker Carlson and his unapologetically bold approach to journalism, we've seen how he challenges the status quo, confronts traditional narratives, and secures interviews that most in mainstream media either wouldn't dare or just simply can't get. From his discussion with controversial figures to his willingness to address topics that others shy away from, Tucker Carlson is definitely making his own unique path in the world of news. But really, what I pick up from Tucker Carlson's work is its importance to having access to a variety of viewpoints, especially in times of political conflict and global uncertainty. Tucker's work reminds us that understanding the other side isn't just about hearing them out. It's about thoroughly engaging with different perspectives to better comprehend the complexities of world affairs. So if you value a deeper dive into the stories that shape our world, make sure you give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. You're not going to want to miss out on what we have lined up next. Until then, you guys take care.